So now we're going to take a quick look at the brow targets. So here's a head that's actually completely rigged. It has a skin cluster going on, as well as some of the lip deformers. And we have the ears, just about everything. Okay, so I'm going to go in and add the brow shapes, but let's take a quick look at them. Basically, similar to the nose, I have global shapes, just a few shapes, sort of like a brow furrow, lifting up the inner brow, dropping down the outer brow, like lifting, lowering the entire brow. And then I have a series of more granular blend shape targets, which move sections of the brow. And those can be added on top of the more global shapes just to, once again, give the animator the ability to go in and finesse the blend shapes and add asymmetry to them. And also, each of the broad shapes is split out into a center, a left, and a right shape. So once again, these are just a few shapes just showing a combination of the broader shapes and how you can use the more granular shapes to finesse or plus the shapes that you've modeled to add broader deformations to this character. Okay, let's take a quick look at some of these brow shapes. It's like a furrow. So again, there's the left and right for each. This is dropping the whole brow down, lifting it up, lifting up the inner, so forth. Then we have some more shapes up here, which are the more granular shapes. So you can see we're just moving sections of the brow. Okay, so let's quickly add these blend shape targets. So for hypergraph, here are all of our targets. I'm just going to drag select all of them, and then shift select the head mesh, and then select deform, create blend shape, open the option box. Once again, I'm going to leave my deformation order on default. I'm going to go in and reorder them manually. Well, I could set it to before or front of chain, but just to make sure, I like to go in and explicitly reorder my deformations. So I'll leave that at default. Switch to the basics tab and give this a name. Then leave the rest at default. The origin will be local, meaning that all the deformations take place in a local space, so all of the translates that I have on the individual targets are not seen. If I were to switch this to a world, it would dial in the transformations that I have on each of the blend shape targets, and we don't want that. Once again, these are all duplicates, so I can leave check topology turned on, set create. Open up our blend shape editor, and we're going to have quite a few targets here. So window, animation editors, blend shape. So you can see we have quite a few brow targets. Let's go in and dial in a few of these. Once again, we have the global shape. Then we have the left and right shape, which we can use to add asymmetry to. And then we also have the more granular shapes, which we can go in and add further asymmetry into this. Let's activate another one of these shapes. Okay, there we go. So you can see how we can go in and these more granular shapes give us just that, the animator and ability to go in and really finesse these shapes. This way they can start out with the default shape and get just about anywhere they want to. So this is a way, rather than having controls that ride on top of the blend shapes, and we can have these more granular controls that work with the more broad blend shapes. So what this system basically does is you can go in and have very broad targets, which will move large masses of flesh or areas of flesh on the character, but then create really small individual shapes that you can go in and layer on top of your more broad shapes. So that gives a lot of posing and facial deformation and flexibility. And because they're all in one blend shape node, they all work fine. They all play well together. So here we're going to go in and let's open up our mouth real quick. Let's activate some of these blend shapes. Here we go, Animation Editor's blend shape. Okay, so we're dialing in our brow shape, but it's taking the whole character back to its default, except with the exception of the brow. Once again, what's happening is we need to change our deformation order. Our blend shape node has to trigger before the skin cluster. In essence, the blend shape will be activated while the character is in the default pose, and then the blend shape deformations will occur. So with this character selected, we're going to select the inputs for the selected object. Left mouse click on that and then select all inputs. And here we can see our blend shape node is at the top of the deformation stack, meaning that it's triggered last in the deformation hierarchy. I'm going to go in and order this to the bottom of the stack, below the skin cluster. So now we can dial in our brow shape, and all of our skin cluster deformations will remain intact because they're triggering after the blend shape node. Okay, once again, pretty quick fundamental demonstration of the blend shapes. But the main purpose of this is showing that you can combine a system of very broad targets with more granular targets. You'll often see systems that will be based entirely on the granular targets, and an animator can go in and move a series of them to get the particular shape that they want. Whereas you could, in fact, just model very specific broad shapes and still have the granular shapes that you can go in and layer on top of those, or you could use the granular shapes all on their own and create unique shapes. But they can work well together, and I think that's a good way of working, is having a combination of both the broad shapes and the very granular shapes. So once again, just a very quick fundamental demonstration of the brow blend shapes and that idea of using the broad and granular shapes together.